doing that. I think now we're gonna record. Then I think what we're wanting to do is give the GSA board an opportunity for a bad actor clause here to put additional restrictions to discourage just going to the fines all the time until such time as the state legislature may modify these fines and their current thresholds, because there is an issue with this occurring in other parts of the San Joaquin Valley where people are just saying, fine, it's cheaper to pay the penalty than it is to not pump the water. Any comments or thoughts on this addition? Again, I think this was an area of conversation with TAC last time.
Yeah, I brought it up, I think, on the TAC last time, and I'm happy that it's included. I'm not really sure what it means because it just says the MSGA GSA may further restrict the APA, but maybe that is all that's needed. Just a little ambiguous on what type of teeth are there, but maybe that's all that's needed for now as you guys develop that language.
Yeah, and just a little more thought on that, Lou, that if the APA is starting at 11 inches and ramping down to 0, but if it's at anything north of 6 inches at any point in time, that's essentially you're losing half a foot. And if you're just applying another 6 inches, but you also lost 6 inches, you're applying an extra foot. Now the price point starts to get higher and maybe affect some of the economic decisions. So that was part of the reasoning for writing it this way at this point. And let's, again, see how things start to play, see if this is an issue. The legislature is talking about modifying the fee structure or fine structures, but none of that has been brought forward yet. And so who knows, that might allow us to not have to address this. But right now we just have this kind of vague language that gives some opportunity for bad actors. If we move on to section 111.
Are we still on 10.1.3.2?
Yes.
Sure, as long as we want, Bob.
I just want to make a comment. I understand the need to restrict APAs if they don't pay their fees. I guess my problem is there still is an outstanding issue with respect to Zone 8 for fees charged with the Prop 218 for water rights application fees. We still believe that we're paying fees that are of no benefit and are contrary to the law of 218. I think is saying is, oh, if this becomes a part of the rules and regulations, our effort to resolve this issue is gone, and we know whether or not the Subbasin GSA is going to continue new fees for water rights applications. We don't know that, and as we've pointed out before, this has been a thorn in our side because we didn't participate in the cost sharing agreement for the water rights application. We said we had enough water rights, surface water rights. We didn't need more, and yet due to how the 218 was determined, we got rolled into that. We still don't like it. I bring this up again because this is something more than just trying to get away from fees or charges or penalties. This has to do with what we feel that there's been a applying of Prop 218 for fees in our sustainability zone.
Well, right now that fee is valid. There was an unsuccessful challenge. If there's a new fee, I mean, this is the last year of that fee. If there's a new fee and there's a challenge brought to it and the fee is determined to be invalid, then it wouldn't be required to be paid under this section. But any valid fee would be required to be paid under this section.
Bob, I don't know anything about the 218 Proposition 218 fees in Section 8, or sorry, in Zone 8. But I read the construct of this rule somewhat analogous to your property taxes, where if you pay your property taxes, you can go ahead and fight and, claim they're not valid and go through an appeal process, but they have to be paid in advance first. As long as the 218 fees are paid, the way I read this is that MSGSA can't charge you or reduce your APA as you're contesting that down the road. So it's only for if there's an open violation. I think the design is against the bad actors. My comment before was that I'm going to be a lot better off buying land in the white areas for $1,000 an acre, planting almonds and pumping to oblivion at $500 a foot than I would be to buy $30,000 land in Gsa. So that was kind of what I was fearful of, because that $500 an acre foot is not going to be a big enough deterrent in my view. And Jeannie, you can correct me if I got that wrong, but the way
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Is, if we don't like a fee that's charged, well, we pay that fee and then we go to the MSGSA and we say, hey, we disagree with this fee, and nothing prohibits us from fighting that battle later. But as long as we're current, then they can't take the APA away from us.
About that in general, nobody likes that. I think it's BS, but
yeah, there's any mechanism for protesting the fee generally, because the fees are on your property tax bill. It's after you pay it, because the tax collector for the county will not accept a partial payment of the property tax bill. You have to pay your whole property tax bill.
and that's state law. Or just Merced.
Yeah.
That's Merced County.
Okay. Damn it.
Down in the Merced Subbasin, they have an exceedance fee that's over $800 because they add in the cost to replace the water. So that's how they.
How they got around the $500 limit in FIGMA. And then you also pay for the cost to replace the water you overdrafted.
You overdraft it, so you gotta get it back.
Because if you don't get it back, there are people that are actually trying to think.
I don't have the solutions for it, but Brad, to your point, my comment was $500 an acre is not a big enough disincentive. So Thule found one solution, and I'm sure there are many more. But my opinion is that $500 an acre is not gonna do enough.
Isn't it 500 plus 1,000?
Yeah, but if you have 1,000-acre block or a 600-acre block, that $1,000 is, it's a one-time penalty of 1,000, which if you have an acre is really relevant. But if you have 300 acres or 500 acres, $1,000 is not going to disincentivize much.
More discussion on section 10, 1.10. Well, I think we've got one more significant change.
Yeah, section 1.11.2.1. So this section, bottom of page 46. It's being modified to remove that clause, significant crop and or irrigation infrastructure. Going forward. So the owner must submit to the GSA forms identifying the misclassified parcel and providing supporting documentation demonstrating that the parcel was irrigated with groundwater prior to October 10th, 2024.
But this would only apply after this language has been
Correct.
only, it would not apply to who has submitted those incorrect assessor office land use miscategorization forms prior to when this change is adopted. So I just want to make that clear.
Because this language, yeah, this is the the removed section, proposed removed section was already included in approved policy. So any forms that were submitted under this appeal prior to any adoption of a change would recognize that language as currently written. The adoption would remove that language for anybody appealing into the future after adoption.
I guess this doesn't apply to me, but I think if somebody did put in a bunch of infrastructure in anticipation of irrigating and they didn't irrigate, for whatever reason, but presumably because they were mindful of groundwater consumption, this could penalize them. So I think the board thought hard about including this before, and I'm curious as to if you guys give more context as to why they've maybe backed away from that stance.
Yeah, this was directed by the board as an to remove. And you know, I don't know that I go into the discussion around it, but they did come back to a misclassified parcel needed to have been irrigated. What they just came back to.
That was the end of the updates between the prior version you guys have seen and the version that is dated May 9th that was posted the day after the last board meeting. Is that right, Lacey?
All right, it was Monday. The Monday after.
Okay, the Monday after. So it has been unchanged since the Monday following the May 8th board meeting.
I have a question. So the fees that have been finalized, is it based on like consume, not extraction, right?
So the fees that are currently in place are all acre-based fees, and so they are not based on extraction or consumed. They are all per acre. It's a flat fee per acre.
The over extraction penalty.
Oh, the penalty?
Yes.
She's on enforcement.
Oh, she's on the enforcement.
Sorry,
page.
44 page, sorry for not clarifying.
Maybe that's a question for Jeannie. Jeannie, the penalty of $500 per acre foot, that is consumed or extracted. It says consumed in here. Is Sigma consumed or extracted?
Extracted, I guess.
Good question. On my Sigma binder here.
You need to speedily flip through the entire Sustainable Groundwater Management Act.
I think like today I attended the stakeholder committee meeting on MIO-GSA and they were talking about like extraction, not consumption. So-
Yeah, so Merced Gsa does all their tracking by extraction only. They
So
don't
they're
track
saying-
by consumption at all. We
But-
track by consumption.
But
Well,
they were
they're
saying like,
hoping to. They're not set up yet.
You're right.
They're,
You're
yeah,
right.
they're gonna start out rough, man, for sure.
Did they adopt it?
Extracts.
It's extraction.
I can't remember exactly where they're at in it, but they're requiring growers to have meters on every well.
So-
No, this is crop man. You can,
You know, but it seems to be consistent because it states a person who extracts groundwater in excess of the amount that person is authorized to extract under a rule. So if our rule says it's measured a certain way and they extract it measured that certain way, it would apply.
So ours applies to consumption. That's consistent with Sigma.
Yeah, I think that works. It's $500 per acre foot in excess of the amount that person is authorized to extract.
so I'm confused again. Authorized to extract, but extraction is not equivalent to consumption, right?
Correct.
So you are going with consumption, not extraction.
Correct. That's
Okay.
all the measurement in the Merced Subbasin GSA is by consumption.
Consumption, yes.
And except, I guess, except for those very specific situations where it's like a confined animal
Mhm.
feeding facility or poultry or a dairy,
Okay,
those all have to be metered. And then we're assuming that the consumption is 100% of the metered extraction.
okay.
So now's your chance, if you have any comments on the rule as a whole, because now we have a not yet adopted, but completed rule with no sections that we are pending or waiting on. So if you have any comments, we can talk about them now, or the next time the board is going to talk about this will be at their June 10th meeting next Thursday. And I don't know if they're going to adopt it. They'll have the option on the agenda to adopt it at that time. Or, you know, if they hear a lot of questions or comments, or if they want to make additional edits, then that can always be moved to like their July meeting or something like that. But now's your chance. Are there any burning items you want to discuss or comments you want to make? Clark, and I see you, even though you're not looking up.
Burning.
Well, Lacey, I guess my only comments are that 2025 was supposed to be our trial year. And we're now in June of 2025, and we potentially have a finished document. I'd like to see us able to have a full trial year as the document's completed. So the only thing I'd like to see is have trial year be 2026, implementation in 2026.
I think that's a comment that you should make to the board. So they can too,
Well, I
in addition, yeah.
You need to say it again. You should bring your friends.
Make them all say it.
I mean, that's a big ask, but it was meant to be a trial year and you haven't been able to do a trial.
I think a lot of the problem is as you guys have seen, a lot of farmers' mentality is the ostrich, I call it. Your head's in the sand, right? So I think that's kind of where everybody's at, is nobody wants to speak up, nobody wants to say anything, and
To play devil's advocate, it's 2014 is when it's passed.
ostrich.
My comment is, my understanding is the allocation management platform is still not functioning for individual property owners.
The groundwater accounting platform,
Yes.
it is functioning for individual property owners, and we sent, 2 letters now.
Well, I know the letters, but how
Yeah.
about the actual
Yeah.
website?
Yeah, you can go on and pull up your parcel in 2025 and see your consumption for 2025.
Kind of.
it's-
There's 2 quarter sections that's missing out of my platform.
Well, then we should get those added in. If you've got parcels that are missing, then we'll add them in.
Better claim your property.
Yeah.
Or water real heavy, don't have it at all.
Make sure you have your, make sure your management account includes all of your parcels. Yeah,
It's just been fairly recently corrected. I haven't looked at it. Blake Nervino mentioned that it wasn't working for him.
so Blake, at our last meeting, Blake had a lot of comments. He wrote those up in like a 1-pager and gave it to us, and we gave it to the folks, and they had a conversation with Blake on the phone, and they actually made a that he was testing to the platform that have already been implemented. So they're on the platform. Those changes have, so what Blake is having trouble with that should be corrected, and those changes have been made. There are some things like the forms that the Alex rule talks about. We don't have all the complete yet. So forms that are due in December, they're not available right now. And then uploading the platform is not yet available. But Israel, if you were to log in to show everybody, could you pull up a water account so we could see 2025, what it looks like for 5? And I would just really, if you log on to and you're missing some, probably missing a pin, and we can get that to you and get your parcels all.
Adriel is navigating out to an account, so give us a moment.
Thanks.
So the forms that you can like registering recharge areas and stuff, they'll be on, but
Yeah, once we finish with this document, we're shifting straight over to the forms that need to be filled out. And I know we already have a list of what we need to complete. So the recharge registration facility, like those, I think we're gonna really lean we had from 2023 in the recharge work. And so it's gonna look very similar, but we haven't got that all finalized. So here we go. Also participant.
pretty much by fall, everything, there. So by December, everything.
Yeah.
By the end of December, we could turn everything in and then.
Yeah, you're not gonna really need to turn anything in for
Recharge
2020, if you want to for 2025, but like your surface water use in 2025. Because this is the test run and we're not enforcing.
Right.
Whether we have that or not, you're not gonna get.
I meant more like recharge facility.
Yeah, for your recharge facility, what's due in January, like the parcels that you wanna basically turn off,
Right,
like, yeah, all that.
thank you.
And so here's a water account. We're looking at the reporting period 2025. You can see the parcels. And then Adriel, so the numbers that you see there, your allocation numbers.
Cool.
Just remember for 2025, it's a test run. So those are the examples of what your allocation would be in 2025 if you had an allocation, but you don't. And so it says total example groundwater allocation. That's what your allocation would be if you had one. So don't get too confused, okay? Don't get too confused by that. And then if you roll down to that chart. So this is also on the platform, and you'll see the chart goes through. I can't quite see what that month is.
April.
April.
We're 1 day into, I guess, 2 days into June, so that May stuff should show up here in a few days.
And this does have the effective precipitation, the policy that the GSA board approved is in this right now. And so the effective precip that you're getting in the 2025 year is the eligible inches that the board adopted in April. And so that's being applied here too.
Now, is
Or
that
it
your
should,
whole,
it should be.
is that your whole bucket that's being applied to your, that 9 feet of the,
That's a 5-year bucket,
that's
right?
your 5-year bucket, that's not your annual bucket.
Yeah, your 5-year bucket should show up.
So here, this view here, you start to see what's remaining in your 5-year bucket. So you see the current year, additional pumping allowance, remaining sustainable yield from 5-year bucket, remaining APA.
So you'll, if we were to look at this at the end of October and you used more than 24 inches, you would see your sustainable yield will be gone, your APA will be gone, and you'll have started reducing that 5-year bucket because you're dipping into your future years allocation.
So as an example, Adriel just pulled 2024. And you can see the numbers, if you scroll up a little bit here for the graph. You see the 2024 use cumulative for the same field.
Can you say what those color dot lines are? Like the bottom one is sustainable yield.
Bottom line, sustainable yield. The next line is your APA. So the green one is your APA stacking on top of your sustainable yield. Then the next line up to the blue is your remaining 5-year bucket of water of native yield. And then the line above that is your remainder when you're considering the 5-year bucket of APA.
You can see this one, the blue dots are the consumed minus effective precipitation. And so in 2024, this parcel passed their sustainable yield and they passed their APA a little bit. So they were pumping more than they're going to be allocated in 2026.
So somebody might run out of water after year 2.
Yeah, if you pump your 48 inches available in 2 years,
Yeah.
you're gonna get.
So what is,
That's what people pump in 1 year.
Yeah.
A lot of time.
Well,
Yeah, each year. You do
Yeah.
that in 2 years.
you're gonna run out.
And you're
So
gonna
then
run out.
they wouldn't be able to pump after that.
Get the next year's 13 inches of sustainable yield and what the APA is. They would get their year's allocation. They would be just limited to that because they're in their 5-year bucket.
Wait a minute, but they already used their searches for the year. You're putting that into this 5-year bucket, right?
Remember, Mike, you get the 5-year bucket, and then at the end of that year, you subtract your consumption out of that bucket, and then you add the year 6 to that bucket. So if you used everything in those couple of years and you borrowed ahead for 5 years, the only thing you'll get added now to your bucket is 13 inches plus whatever the APA is for that 6th year. And that's all you have right now.
Or the 7th year. Remember, it's going to roll forward every year.
So why are we letting people borrow 6 years out when they're going broke on the 3rd year? Am I confused on this one?
They'd be borrowing all their bucket of water. So first off, you got a 48-inch limit, right? Per acre. And so if you're starting off with 24 inches, next year you'll get 23 inches, essentially. Next year, 22. So if you're limited to 48, that first year, if you consume, again, this is consumption, not extraction. If you consume 48 inches, which is pretty aggressive consumption, you're going to be using this year and next year, and you'll be going into next year. And if you continue to do the same thing, you'll use year 3 and year 4, but you've already added now year 6 and year 7. So you do have some more water. You just are tailing off quickly. And it just again, if you recall, the decision making on this idea was to give flexibility to those growers who may just want to stay with it for a couple of years and then make massive changes. versus those who might want to make a slower change over time. We're trying to give flexibility. And it's the best approach, right? The most practical approach, I think, given those desires.
Do we know what crop this was?
No.
Whatever the manager of this account should hopefully know what in the world's on his property. Remember, we're getting a sneak peek. You guys will only be seeing your properties through your account or whomever you're allowed to see. So I would hope we're seeing, we would know what's growing there.
So on the chart, it looked like it started consuming in like May, is that right? And then kept consuming and consuming more all the way through December?
That's a cumulative.
Cumulative. So it peaked out. So yeah, so look at, here's the monthly view.
And then, correct me, I remember Blake saying that like, he wanted to make it fields, not parcels.
Yeah.
Did that happen? Or like, cause some of us have a parcel with multiple crops and
No,
multiple fields. and
yeah, the intention is to maybe have it. I don't think we have yet a field data set that we've submitted to the platform folks, but Greg, I think we're starting with the DWR crop layer since so far everybody's been pretty comfortable with the fields on there. And then if not, they can edit them themselves.
The challenge obviously is not everybody, there's lots of changes that happen all the time. And so trying to keep all of those geographies and shapes updated so we're covering everything in our GSA it's going to be an ongoing challenge. So this is trying to balance that ability for you as a grower to manage within your bucket and the GSA to not need a $10 million a year operating budget to try and reconfigure everybody's field every year.
One of the,
Facetious, but you get the point.
one of the things that the platform has yet to record is any alternate source water. We are not gonna find out how many acre feet per acre of alternate source water exists until the end of 2025.
So if you see in this version right here, you see the line that says other surface water. Obviously, we haven't asked anybody to submit information to be able to provide to the platform. So there's a line item for that alternative source. So Bob, as you have your Stevenson water supplies, you're going to provide that data to us. That's going to get submitted and that will show up as water you had available for that prior year or for that year that's concluding.
What is the date that we're supposed to submit that, so it's all on there? December or something like that?
Go
December,
to the rule, alternative sources.
Will the GSA include it on a monthly basis if the farmer was to submit it?
It's gotta be confirmed.
I know it takes staffing.
Brad, on one side, if it's the recharge, that will show up here. Like if you get a recharge credit at the end of 2026 and you're going into 27, you'll see that bucket.
Yeah.
If it's a water supply you bought from MID and you got it in March, April, May, we don't know any of that until you submit that data once you get all those records. So there is a little bit of a timing issue, but the GSA isn't gonna look to whether you violated anything until the end of 2027 anyway. So you would be submitting that information and it would be uploaded, and so it would correct. Like if right now it showed you were at deficit, even though you had some surface water supply, the records hadn't been provided yet. Well, that would correct itself once those records are provided. It would then show up as a source of water.
we've talked about the concept. Once the platform will allow you to submit it in the platform,
Upload it.
the concept of the grower upload, if they want to upload it monthly, they can upload it monthly, but it will be essentially marked as not verified. So they can see it, but know that the GSA isn't gonna basically verify that and approve it. Likely until the end of the year, do it all and not have to do it month by month. That date is December 15th. You'll upload your alternative
If
source.
you're gonna use, if the farmer is gonna use the platform as a planning tool, then like Bob was suggesting, then you would have to submit at least every month if you wanted to
Yeah,
plan your
and
water. But
Yeah, one of the
lag's gonna be not useful.
One of the concerns is we don't know the accuracy yet of remote sensing satellite imaging. And in order to really start to drill down on that, we've got to be able to input all that stuff. So it's not going to be until sometime well into 2026. Can we evaluate what happened in 2025?
Sure.
I just wanted to, because I foresee, especially if you're looking at small parcels, I foresee there's gonna be a lot of questions as to accuracy of the accounting platform. But I mean, you don't know till you get into it.
Right, and we have the accounting platform defaults to OpenET remote sensing, but you have the opportunity to use meter data, and you could say, I want to use meter data, and you're going to submit that information and show what fields that's associated with, and you go to meter data, or you go to an alternative source of remote sensing. You might have a contract with Land IQ or somebody else, and you trust that. As a grower, you're going to use that information and submit that. So the platform has multiple opportunities for different data sources. And we've accommodated that in our policies. The default is OpenET because that's free for everybody.
In my experience, more down south where they're a couple years ahead, the ET readings from these companies hasn't been the controversies. They're not great. Some are a little high, some are a little low. Some people love meters, some think meters are unreliable, but typically there's other controversies that went out. They're pretty close. I mean, like people who are skeptical when they study it, they end up thinking it's pretty close.
I guess on the platform, log in, claim your pins, and then if you look at your water account and you say, where's my missing APN?
Where's all my water?
Yeah, where's all my land? Then let us know and we'll make sure that whatever missing parcels you have, that you get the pins to those and you can add those to your water account. If you log in and you don't like it, that you have APN and 2 different water accounts, you should be able to do some swapping around of parcels and moving them where you want them. Again, you can always call or submit a help ticket through the platform. And that goes to more than just me. And so you can, adjust where you want your APN, what account you want them into as well. So anything else on the platform, on the rule? 15 minutes early, so hey.
I have one question on the rule. I think it's been addressed, but does anything contemplate the interplay between the MSGSA subbasin and Megusa with water moving around? I think I read in the rule that as long as water stays in the subbasin, it can move. And maybe that's broad enough to be able to contemplate that. I'm thinking of areas on the borderlands where property owners have some Megusa ground and some white areas. And I know that Megusa is thinking about ways that, somehow it can integrate with the white areas and with the MSGSA. But is there anything else that needs to be contemplated, or is that pretty well addressed?
It's not detailed out in the rule, and that's intentional because the conversations have started. So we've got a subcommittee of MSGSA board members who are meeting with Megusa specifically to talk about those borderlands and those parcels that are either split or right next door. It's the same farming operation, but they're, you know, in between two different GSAs, and how each of the allocations is going to kind of be enforced with both of those. Gsa has some pretty strict thinking about what they want pumped out of their wells, and reported to Gsa what allocation amounts they would allow to be pumped out of their wells. Right now, they don't feel that the APA is sustainable, so they don't want to see APA pumped out of their wells. And so that's something that the two GSAs have to work through together. And so we don't have those details in this because they haven't been worked out with Gsa, but the conversations have started.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a good call. It's a good catch.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So like I did research, my grad school research was on eddy covariance system, which is kind of take the direct water consumption from an orchard. And also compared with it, the flow meter that the growers applied. And I actually found a significant difference between these two. And I will not say the number because it's not published yet. So do you have any kind of buffer zone of like, for example, if you see like 50% discrepancy between the data and the consumptive, so do you have any buffer zone of like acceptance of the, like to what extent you want to
So,
accept the discrepancy?
so there is, we know that extraction data is not to match your consumption data because you're comparing apples and oranges on page 40. That's the efficiency table. And so if you were to submit their meter data, the efficiency would be applied to that to come up with your consumption number.
Okay.
You would not be, your topping amount would not be removed from the application. Only the number that would come up after applying the efficiency factor to come up with the option would be your allocation. So essentially, you're not penalized by submitting your meter data by removing everything that you pump, because not everything you pump you consume.
Mhm.
Is that getting at?
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, 3:17, thanks for coming. So this is our June meeting. It's supposed to be our May meeting. It's our June meeting. Our next scheduled meeting in August. So we're back to the every schedule. We had a meeting scheduled in June, later in June. We're gonna pull that off the calendar unless something crazy comes up. You know, we need to reconvene you guys before August, but until we see that, your next scheduled meeting would be in August. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks online.
Lucy, do you have a minute to